What's good, fight fans? Your Majesty speaking. Bud Crawford, the greatest fighter of all time. It's crazy because in my breakdown, I said that I wanted Bud Crawford to win because I wanted to be able to witness greatness. I wanted to see a Henry Armstrong in my time. I wanted to see a Sugar Ray Robinson in my time. Yeah, I got to see a Floyd. I got to see a Roy Jones, but none of them have done what Bud Crawford has done, and I'm glad that he made that wish come true. However, I am a Canelo fan as well, and it was sad to see him go out like that. But unlike most, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it a bean. Um, Let me go back. Let me start from the beginning though, because I had somebody in my comments say that Professor shit when I was breaking down Earl Spence and how he made Crawford look better. Um, I guess he took that as me saying that Crawford was going to beat. I'm sorry, that Canelo. That meant that Canelo was going to beat. But Crawford, instead of understanding, all I was doing was breaking down the mistakes that Spence made that made the night much easier for Bud Crawford. And in certain aspects, Canelo kind of did the same. And maybe that's a video I'll make somewhere down the line. But if you watch all my videos, especially the initial video when I was saying I wanted Bud Crawford to win, but I can't go against my logic and what I know boxing to be, um, which is the odds are against somebody that is coming from really 147 pounds. He had one fight at 54, but really 147 pounds, jumping up to 168 pounds, not to fight anybody, but to fight the best person who had been the best person for probably the last 8 to 10 years at that weight class, who was undefeated at that weight class, who is a great fighter in his own right. On top of that, Bud Crawford had a year and some change, or a year and 11, 12 months or 13 months off. I also didn't know what his body was going to look like at that weight, as far as how he was going to handle the weight in the later rounds, carrying around that extra weight, seeing as though we never got a tune up to kind of gauge what he would look like at that weight. Um, what else did he have going against him? He was a year and a half out of the ring. He was gaining 20 something pounds. He was 38 years old, or soon to be 38 years old. Um, and for me, it was just too many unknowns for me to say Bud Crawford was going to win. And so in my prediction, yes, I was incorrect. But if you go back and listen to my live, where I went live right before the fight, I said it's three things that I need to see from Bud Crawford before I believe that he can win the fight. The first thing was, I noticed that with Madrimov and Sean Porter, feints kind of held Crawford up. So I wanted to see how he was going to react to the patience of Canelo, because I know Canelo has a long history of being a patient fighter. He handled that well. How he handled it, he came out using a jab that wasn't a punishing jab, but it was a jab to kind of throw off Canelo's rhythm. So he could kind of control Canelo's feints with that pity pat jab, seeing as though he was the person that had the longer arms. He came out a lot more active. Credit to my man Big Joe show for saying that he probably would do that. He came out a little more active in the first round than I expected him to. And so he was able to handle Canelo's patience very well. The second thing that I said that I wanted to see from Crawford was how he handled the power of Canelo. If he was able to handle the punches of Canelo, and how that would affect him, or if it would have an effect on him. Strike two, he didn't have any effect. He didn't have any side effects from the punches that Canelo was throwing. He was able to catch him on his gloves. He was able to roll with a lot of them. He was able to catch the body shots on his elbows. Excellent work from Bud Crawford. And the third thing that I needed to see was, once he got into the mid to later rounds of the fight, I needed to see how his body was reacting. If he was seeming more tired than normal, if he wasn't able to pull the trigger. Sometimes having extra muscle, it take a lot more oxygen to feed those muscles. So I wanted to see how his body would react in the mid to later rounds. Once I seen those three things, I was pretty confident that Bud could win the fight, because we all knew that Bud had faster feet. We all knew that Bud was the better athlete. Like I said before, I feel like their IQ is on the level. But I think what was really giving Canelo issues was he knew what was going on, what was happening. I don't think his body would allow him to react. And most people get mad at me. I got some buddies that I have conversations with, and I was telling them, like, I don't think he was had that much of a better IQ. I just think his athleticism allowed him to do a lot more than Canelo's. And when I saw that, and the reason how I know that I'm right when I'm saying this is because I watched the interview with Bud Crawford on, I want to say, the Pat McAfee show. And shout out to Pat McAfee. And he had asked him about the video that's been, circling around or going around. And a lot of people think that Canelo got rocked by that punch. But if you really pay attention to that shot, when Bud, I want to say Canelo tried to hit him with an overhand right. Bud ducked under it and came back with a counter straight left. As Bud was coming with the counter straight left, Canelo was rolling it. He got hit by it. Not saying he didn't get hit, but he was rolling that punch. And his IQ allowed him to realize that he's also going to come back with this right hook. And so when his face went back like this, a lot of people thought like, oh, he looked at Crawford like, goddamn. No, he understood that he hit me with this straight left. I rode it. So he's bound to come back with this right hook. And so he was trying to prepare for that right hook as well. And I'm glad that Bud Crawford on that show clarified that, because this is one of the things that I want to get through in the sport of boxing is I want people to understand what it is they're watching. A lot of times people have no clue what they're watching, and I'm not claiming to be the mastermind or the greatest mind that boxing has ever seen, but I know a little something, And so if you really look at that fight, it was more so Bud's abilities that got him over more so than his IQ. They both had high IQ. I'm not saying that Bud wasn't able to outsmart him here or there, just like Canelo was able to outsmart him in certain places. But overall, I think it was a great fight. I think it was a closer fight than people make it seem. Yes, Bud did start to pull away maybe about round 9.5, 10, 11, somewhere in that range. Actually, I think Canelo won 10. And so I think Bud showed a lot of separation in 9, and then 11 and 12. I think he kind of like put a stamp on the victory. But I do think based on how you judge boxing, I can see how people would have given Canelo 4 to 5 rounds. I think I gave him 4, based on his aggressiveness. And a lot of the times, like I was saying before, Bud was going to have to put emphasis on these rounds, because anything close, 9 times out of 10, judges were going to lean towards Canelo with him being the money guy. And something else that I was right about, if you look at the scorecards, I want to say 2 of the judges had it 115, 113, which is 7 rounds to 5. That's really only, it's a 2-round difference, but it's a 1-round difference from being a draw. So that's not that big of a difference when you look at the scorecards. Now I did see that Canelo had landed more power punches or something like that, but that was a given. Only thing Canelo throw is power punches, so I wouldn't expect anything less. Um, but all in all, I just want to give Bud Crawford all the credit in the world, and you know why? Because he deserves all the credit in the world. Anytime you, anytime you accomplish something like this to the point of it could have, if with a loss, Bud probably would have fell in the middle of the pack of fighters to one victory, taking you to possibly an all-time great. You got to give Bud credit for stepping up and standing 10 toes down. Even on the walkout, when I first seen Bud walk out, I always pay attention to Bud, and one of the things that I admire about Bud is his ability to be calm, which is also one of the things I admire about Canelo. Um, because me being a former athlete, I know what it's like to be in front of a crowd and have those nerves or have those jitters. And of course, any great athlete uses it in a positive more so than a negative. I know that when I played basketball, I would have jitters or whatever, but once the ball went up, the tip went up or whatever, and I touched the basketball, that shit went out the window. And so I was kind of nervous because when I saw Bud come out and I saw the crowd, I'm like, shit, he kind of looked like shell shocked almost, like, damn, like I wasn't expecting this. And then one of the things that made another thing that made me feel like he was kind of nervous was Bud is normally cool, calm, and collected. And when he first got in the ring, he was doing like some monkey dance or some shit. And I'm like, hold on, this shit is out of character, man. Like I'm not liking this because, like I said, I wanted Bud to win. As big of a Canelo fan I am, I felt like Bud winning was better for the sport. Um, because it's the shit that you don't see all the time. You know what I'm saying? And like I said before, I did pick Canelo to win based on all of the pros versus the cons that he had. And I'm pretty sure I would my pick would be that way regardless of who the fighter was. Because one thing for sure, two things for certain, you just got to understand that Bud Crawfords don't come around a dime a dozen. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I would be stupid not to or to go against my morals or go against what I know about the sport to guess. You know what I'm saying? I would more so rather use the information that I have and make an educated guess based off of what I know than to just pick some shit because emotionally I'm tied to it. That's never been me. It's probably never going to be me. For example, if somebody was to tell me Sebastian Fundora was jumping 160 pounds and he was jumping 168 pounds and he was moving at 175 to fight David Benavidez, 10 times out of 10, my pick is going to be David Benavidez based on what I know about the sport. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody is not going to be Bud Crawford. Not 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a Mikey Garcia who get his ass whooped by Earl Spence. You know what I'm saying? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an Amir Khan who get his ass whooped by Canelo Alvarez. It's rare. These Bud Crawford guys are rare. You know what I'm saying? Contrary to popular belief, Bud said, who made that up? It's true. You know what I'm saying? 9 times out of 10, if somebody jump and weight like that, they bound to get their ass whooped. And so I don't think I made a bad prediction. However, I did get it wrong, and I'm okay with getting it wrong. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think that you're going to always be right. You're never going to always be right, brother. You know, even though I'm your majesty, I'm not Jesus Christ or God or whoever you may believe in. And so we all going to get them wrong here and there. But it does not mean that what I stated in that video when I was saying the things that Earl Spence wasn't doing, that Bud was able to kind of capitalize on, or the things that Earl wasn't doing that Bud didn't even have to work to capitalize on. It doesn't change that. If you go look at that video and actually see what I'm saying, everything that I'm saying is absolutely true. And like I said, I can do the same for a Canelo video and show you the things that Canelo did that allowed Bud's night to get easier and easier, because initially Canelo was doing some good things. He was doing some very good things that wouldn't allow Bud to get comfortable. And if you look at my video, that's initially what I was saying. You can't allow this first round. You can't allow him to learn what he need to learn in round 1. He got to be able to learn that stuff in round 4 or 5, and then, you know what I'm saying, you got a much better chance of beating him. And so I did want to make sure that I get this video out. I felt like complete trash yesterday, so I ain't do nothing. But I did want to make sure that I gave Bud Crawford his credit. I don't want to hear shit. I don't want to hear nothing about Canelo was over the hill. I don't want to hear shit about Canelo looked bad in his last fight against William Skull. I don't want to hear that Bud cherry picked Canelo. None of the shit that I'm hearing from these different places, I don't fucking want to hear it. I feel like we need to give Bud Crawford his credit. He's been a long time getting criticized for shit when it ain't been his fault. The Earl Spence car accident wasn't his fault. None of the PBC fighters fighting him when they were in their prime, it's not his fucking fault. That man did everything that he was supposed to do. And we, at this point, we just got to give him his credit. I don't want to hear shit about David Benavidez. I don't want to hear shit about nothing. Unless that's what Crawford want to do. In my book, Crawford can go ahead and roll out in the sunset, and he top 4 in my book. He and like I said, I keep it a bean. I said that he would be an all-time great in my book, and he is. And, you know what I'm saying? And I can't see nobody in the history of boxing where I could just say, oh yeah, that person just automatically whooped Terrence Crawford ass. You know what I'm saying? Not in his category of weight, of course. I ain't talking about Lennox Lewis or nothing like that, but I'm saying as far as the people that are in his weight class or in that class where he is, I don't see nobody whooping his ass in the history. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing I can say, if you say Bud versus Mayweather, my answer is going to be shit, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They both, Bud, Mayweather, Andre Ward, Roy Jones, before he got his ass whooped. Of course, we know he was later on in his career, but them 4 guys right there, it's hard for me to see anybody whooping their ass, and that's just the reality of it. Now, once again, I do appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let me know in the comments how you feel about my thoughts on Crawford's victory and this video. And also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if you like what I'm doing. And until next time.